Hello player, today we will analyze the match between Mihail with the white pieces and Leonid Zaid with the black pieces. d4. Knight c6. This move was inaccurate, the best move was knight f6. For example, knight f6, c4, e6. With a balanced game, knight c6, c4, d5, knight c3, e5, c captures on d5, knight captures on d4, e3, knight f5, e4, knight h4, g3, knight g6, queen b3, a6, h4, h5, bishop g5, bishop e7, bishop captures on e7, queen captures on e7, bishop h3, b5, f4, bishop captures on h3. This move was inaccurate, the best move was b4. For example, b4, knight d1, queen c5. With a decisive advantage for white. Bishop captures on h3. Knight captures on h3. b4. Queen c4. This move was inaccurate, the best move was knight d1. For example, knight d1, f6, knight e3. With a decisive advantage for white. Queen c4. Queen d6. This move was inaccurate, the best move was queen d7. For example, queen d7. Queen captures on b4. Knight from 8, e7. With a decisive advantage for white. Queen d6. Knight a2. This move was inaccurate, the best move was knight d1. For example, knight d1, f6. Rook c1. With a decisive advantage for white. Knight a2. Rook b8. b3. This move was inaccurate, the best move was kingside castling. For example, kingside castling. Knight f6. Knight c1. With a decisive advantage for white. b3. Knight f6. Knight g5. Kingside castling. Rook c1. Rook from f, c8. Kingside castling. f5. Rook c2. Knight f8. Knight c1. Knight from 8, h7. This move was inaccurate, the best move was knight e8. For example, knight e8. f4. Queen b6 check. With an advantage for white. Knight from 8, h7. Knight f3. This move gives back part of the advantage, the best move was knight d3. For example, knight d3. Knight captures on g5. H captures on g5. Knight d7. Knight e1. Rook b6. f4. With a decisive advantage for white. Knight f3. Knight g4. The evaluation became 2.1, this was a serious mistake, the best move was c6. For example, c6. d captures on c6. Rook b6. Queen c5. Queen captures on c5. Rook captures on c5. Rook from b captures on c6. Rook captures on c6. Rook captures on c6. Knight captures on e5. Rook c2. Knight c4. Knight captures on e4. Knight captures on a5. Knight captures on f2. With an advantage for white. Knight g4. Knight d3. c6. Queen a6. Rook a8. Queen b7. Rook from A, b8. Rook captures on c6. Rook captures on b7. Rook captures on d6. f6. Rook c6. Rook captures on c6. D captures on c6. Rook c7. Rook c1. This move was inaccurate, the best move was knight d2. For example, knight d2. Rook captures on c6. Knight c4. Knight f8. Knight captures on a5. Rook c3. Knight captures on b4. Knight e6. Knight from A, c6. King h7. f5. With a decisive advantage for white. Rook c1. Knight f8. This move was inaccurate, the best move was knight f8. For example, knight f8. Knight d2. Knight e6. Knight c4. Knight d4. Knight captures on a5. Knight e2 check. King f1. Knight captures on c1. Knight captures on c1. Rook a7. Knight c4. Rook a6. Knight a2. Rook captures on c6. Knight captures on b4. Rook c8. Knight d5. King h7. With a decisive advantage for white. Knight f8. Rook c5. Knight e6. Rook captures on a5. Rook captures on c6. Knight captures on b4. This move was inaccurate, the best move was rook d5. For example, rook d5. Rook c3. f5. Rook captures on b3. Knight d2. Rook a3. Knight captures on b4. g5. H captures on g5. h4. G captures on h4. F captures on g5. H captures on g5. Knight f4. Knight c2. Rook a2. Rook c5. Knight d3. Rook c8 check. King g7. Rook c7 check. King g6. f3. Knight from G, f2. Knight c4. Knight h3 check. King f1. King captures on g5. Knight from 4, a3. Knight b4. Knight captures on b4. Rook captures on a3. a6. Rook captures on f3 check. King g2. With a decisive advantage for white. Knight captures on b4. Rook c3. Knight d2. Knight d4. This move was inaccurate, the best move was rook c1. For example, rook c1 check. King g2. Rook e1. Knight c4. Rook captures on e4. Rook d5. Knight d4. f5. Rook e2. Rook captures on d4. Rook captures on f2 check. King g1. E captures on d4. a6. Rook e2. a7. Rook e1 check. King g2. Rook a1. Knight c6. Rook a2 check. King f3. f5. King f4. Knight f6. Knight b6. d3. King e3. d2. King e2. Knight e4. a8 check. Rook captures on a8. Knight captures on a8. g5. H captures on g5. Knight captures on g3 check. King captures on d2. h4. Knight d4. Knight e4 check. King e3. h3. Knight f3. Knight captures on g5. b4. King f8. b5. f4 check. King captures on f4. Knight e6 check. King e4. King e7. King e5. King d7. With a balanced game. Knight d4. Rook a8 check. This move gives back part of the advantage. The best move was rook d5. For example, rook d5. Rook c1 check. King g2. Rook e1. Knight f3. Knight captures on f3. Knight d3. Rook b1. King captures on f3. Rook captures on b3. King e2. Rook a3. f5. Rook a2 check. King e1. King f8. Rook c5. With a decisive advantage for white. Rook a8 check. King h7. f5. Knight captures on b3. The evaluation became 1.2. This was a serious mistake. The best move was rook c1. For example, rook c1 check. King g2. Rook e1. Knight f3. Rook e2. Knight captures on d4. Rook captures on f2 check. King g1. Captures on d4. e5. Rook d2. With a balanced game. Knight captures on b3. Knight captures on b3. Rook captures on b3. Knight c6. This move was inaccurate. The best move was rook b8. For example, rook b8. Rook b1 check. King g2. Rook b2. King f1. Rook b1 check. King g2. Rook b2. King f1. Rook b1 check. King e2. Rook b2 check. King d3. Knight captures on f2 check. King c4. Rook b1. a6. Rook a1. King d5. King g6. Rook c8. With an advantage for white. Knight c6. Rook b1 check. King g2. Rook b2. a6. Knight e3 check. King g1. Rook b1 check. King h2. Rook b2. g4. Captures on g4. The evaluation became 4.0. This was a serious mistake. The best move was rook captures on f2. For example, rook captures on f2 check. King g3. Rook c2. a7. Captures on g4. h5. Rook g2 check. With a balanced game. Captures on g4. King g3. Knight f1 check. King captures on g4. Rook captures on f2. a7. Rook g2 check. King f3. White's victory. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your suggestions.